we've had a lot of folk on, Sinclair Skinner has a I Love Black People, which, allows us to go into his site and look around to see, where there's safe spaces for Black people in, all of the fields, like where to find a good doctor and things like that. The Green Book, not the movie, but the actual Green Book that was founded in the 40s and 50s, allowed for many of our grandparents and great grandparents to travel around the country and have safe places to rest their head, to eat, etc. Particularly in the racist lynching South, where it was, dangerous to go and even to get gas in certain places. Why is it necessary today, in 2021, to have a Green Book?
Yeah, unfortunately, traveling while Black is still a concern in this day and age. You think we've made some progress, and maybe we've made progress, but racism has also progressed as well. So there was a study done on the New York Times article that said like 71% of Black travelers still look for a destination to be safe specifically for Black travelers, right? So we got the Trump era, we got, white supremacy kind of going rampant. So especially as a Black traveler and a Black person from the US, you got Jim Crow, you got segregation, you got police brutality. You have all this context that we have to kind of live in. So in particular, US-based Black travelers are even more nervous going to certain destinations just because of our history. And so it's still important because racism is still out there, unfortunately. And you do get treated differently because of the color of your skin. And what the platform really is there to do is to really still encourage travel. But I think one key thing is when you see other Black people going to certain destinations and hearing their stories, you're more inclined to go there. You're like, all right, bet you went there. It was a great time. I can go there as well. And that's what we try to do. We try to really crowdsource those experiences, whether they're good or bad, to really encourage our community to get out there.
So we've had a frequent traveler, Jabril. Oh gosh, my gosh, why can't I think of his name?
Passport Heavy, I think.
Yeah, Passport Heavy. Yes, that's the brother I want to travel with everywhere. First of all, because he travels the way I like to travel, luxuriously. I'm not taking the bus or subway. And the places he goes, seems like he's found the more beautiful places. So is this, that where you're engaging with people who travel that way, or is it just like kind of a Yelp sort of, you're giving your reviews on the places that you've been?
Yep. So I kind of call it kind of like a Black TripAdvisor. But what makes us unique is that instead of rating activities, you rate destinations. So destinations have a score for like adventure, affordability, romance, things to do, nightlife, history, but most importantly, what it's like traveling while Black. So there's a score for each destination that other Black travelers leave. So it's not just one person, it's not my opinion, it's thousands of Black travelers from all over the world, where they're in the US, where they're in Europe, where they're in Africa. They'll talk about like, oh, it was great. Oh, no, it wasn't. But they also talk about what they did and where they stayed. So I actually had a friend like go to, I think she went to Cancun, and she stayed in a resort, and she's like, damn, there ain't no Black people here. And I was like, oh, I should have looked at the site, because, if you look at the site, you would see like, okay, some of those certain resorts are frequented by Black travelers a little bit more. And so if that's what you're looking for, like the site would help you kind of find that. So it's definitely it's crowdsourced. It's just Black people all over the world that are really sharing their views on certain destinations.
What's the most counterintuitive spot that Black people are enjoying that you were like, didn't think about that?
So I would say Iceland. So because it's counterintuitive, because it's a really white place. Like it's really white. And
literally.
And so what I do sometimes, and I do like diversity, equity, inclusion consultants, since I have some of this data and I've done my own survey on Black travel as well. And so Iceland has a really high rating for adventure. It has a so-so rating for travel while Black. And I say so-so meaning like out of a 5-star scale, maybe it's like 4.3. So it's not like terrible, but it's not great. But what happened is with Wow Air and just the fact that Iceland got some dope stuff to do, is full of adventure, like Black people have gone there in droves because it was a really cheap flight. But also like people from Iceland don't really sweat you. They're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, do you? And so you don't feel like you're sticking out like a sore thumb. And if you read some reviews on the site too, like someone say, hey, I went as a solo traveler, as a solo Black female, and I left the Blue Lagoon with like 10 friends that I went to go party with for the rest of the weekend. Right. And so I think that's one place that it's just so much to do, and people don't treat you differently, not much differently. There's always some circumstances, but I think that's something that I was like, wow, Iceland's really dope for Black travelers.
It's interesting because I know that I did a ton of research, and it still wasn't enough online before I moved to mainland China. and I would
Woo.
have to, yeah, and I would have to go to different cities in China, and I was always trying to search to see like were there any black people there, or did the State Department have any like warnings, and they're none, right? Like
Yeah.
if you try to get like a perspective from like the State Department that has a perspective on everything from air quality
Yeah.
to local customs to find out if it is racist, right? Or if there's any sort of thing like that would directly impact people of color, you cannot find that, right?
Absolutely.
Like nobody told me that when I was in Cologne that little kids couldn't speak English, but they would make monkey noises when I walked by just to let me know I was black, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody tells you that when you go to Poland or you go to Warsaw, right? Like you might want to make sure that you really check what hotel you're in because people will be racist and rude to you. You know what I mean? So how do you crowdsource for places that are more obscure, like not just for vacationing, but places that people actually have to go?
Yeah.
How do you solve for that?
So one thing is black people travel everywhere. So even if they're obscure places, it's just a matter of can I get them to know about the platform to leave a review? So like you said, you go to certain places, you hear monkey noises, those reviews are on the site. You got people throwing rocks at them, kids making fun of them. Like you have those reviews that are literally on the site that tell you those experiences. And so again, part of it is not to make anyone afraid, but it's not to get sucker punched, right? It's kind of like, okay, I know what I might run into. So let me, keep my head on a swivel and be prepared for what could happen. But also I'm here. I'm not going to be, left out of a destination just because, they might treat me differently. I'm still going to go there and try to have a good time. So we just want to equip you to go there, right? And so it's just a matter of just getting people more visibility on the platform. But the reviews are raw, like they're raw. So there's nothing that I do to sway them. It's either good or bad. I don't have a skin in the game as far as whether it's good or bad from a destination standpoint. But it's what was your experience there?
Lawrence Phillips, where have you traveled? How many countries have you been to?
I've been to about 60. So
60?
actually, yep, 60. Yep. In all 7 continents. So actually, that's how the idea came up. So I quit my job back in 2015.
What were you doing?
I was working for Accenture doing consulting.
Okay.
So that's kind of what
this feels
out.
like a consultant mind solving for a problem. It really does. It really feels like, even like, well, we're going to crowdsource all of these experiences. I felt like I'm looking at the deck that you put together for this in my head already, man.
Hey, you called it. I mean, one thing with consulting too, it kind of like helped with instill the travel bug because I was traveling so much and I can travel like the different destinations instead of traveling back home. So I went to Costa Rica a couple of times instead of going back to Atlanta. So I was in Atlanta going to San Diego for about 2 years and I just got burnt out. Like I did that commute every week. Accenture was great. Don't get me wrong. Like I had a really great experience there, but I just got tired. And I said, from a mental health standpoint, I need a break. So it was like right before my 30th birthday night. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to quit. Just focus on me, focus on loving me and see what happens. And so that year I traveled for about 10 months and I did 30 countries on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. And so that's where I kind of got the idea from. Was one, I noticed really two pain points became very clear to me. I'm not good at planning trips because you had to plan for every destination, like where to go, where to sleep. So there was one time I went to Venice on that trip. I showed up at 2:00 in the morning with my suitcase without a hotel. And I was knocking on doors and I'm like, oh shoot, I probably should have booked something here. But I'm like, I made it work.
What was the greatest thing that you learned about either life or yourself spending that much time alone? Because international travel, unless you have a travel buddy, can be very solitary. Like, and you did it for 10 months. I don't know if you had a travel buddy or not, but I know that I learned a lot traveling alone, like either about the world or about society or about yourself.
Introspectively, it really made me focus on like betting on yourself. So I just said, you got to focus on you and making yourself happy. So I still do consulting now for a smaller firm, but I made sure I made choices that made my work-life balance better for me. So my priorities have significantly shifted. Just coming back, I'm not like a brand new person, but I look at work differently than when I first went on my trip. So really work is to, help me sustain my livelihood, but I need to live, right? And I think at times like work to live or live to work, right? And so I'm not living to work. And I think that became crystal clear to me for every decision I make when it comes to like working. I'm just like, how does this really affect my livelihood, my life in general? So that's
surviving a year not working a 9 to 5 will change the way you think about work for the rest of your life. You will never work the same way again, because it makes you understand much more clearly what it is that you actually need versus what the world has told you you need, or to get off that hamster wheel for a minute is very different, a very different perspective.
It's like an awakening.
What was the best place you went to? We're talking with Lawrence Phillips. He is the founder and CEO of Green Book Global, and you can go to greenbookglobal.com to check it out, or at Green Book Global on social media. Drew McCaskill's here as well. Best place you went and why?
So I would say the best place I went to was Johannesburg. And it's kind of interesting why Johannesburg, because first time I went there, I was shook. I listened to
South
the media.
Africa, right?
Yep, South Africa, yep. So I listened to the media and they said, I went there for a safari. And so I went to Johannesburg. I spent the day there and I went on a safari. I really wanted to go to the mall. I listened to what the media was said, like it's dangerous out there. Like, you got to be very careful. And so I didn't give Johannesburg a fair shot. And so I was like, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. So I spent about 2 to 3 weeks there on the trip. And I had like the best time. I ended up meeting some guys at a club that ended up like befriending me and my homeboy. And they just really took care of us. I went to go eat at their house. Like, so they lived in Soweto, which is kind of a quote unquote ghetto outside of Johannesburg. And so like, they just took care of me. And one of the things that I always remember, like I met them one night at a bar. And one of my friends, well, actually someone on Facebook that was not really my friend told me about some people. And I was like, all right, fine, sure. I'll meet up with them. But at the end of the night, like we went home and it's like, hey, you should text me when you get home. And I was like, bro, I just met you. Like, and plus I'm a dude. So why are you trying to like have me text? Like, yo, you're in my city and I want to make sure that you are well taken care of. So please just let me know that you made it home safely. And to me, that blew my mind, because one male doing that to another male, it's kind of different. And then also the fact that I just met you, like you have that much concern for me. Like I was like, damn, all right, okay, Johannesburg, I see you. And so that's why I definitely like would say Johannesburg is kind of top of my list for on my trip.
I love Johannesburg for not the same but similar reasons. But I'm surprised that you said Joburg instead of Cape Town. Because I could live in Cape Town. Like I could pick up my bag, pack up my dog and my boo and move to Cape Town like tomorrow. But I will say that when I was in Joburg, it was right after the Trump election, and the driver in the car said, "Oh, y'all came to check it out in case he sent y'all back." And I was like, it was just like immediate camaraderie of people who people who knew we were Black Americans. Yeah. But also there was this camaraderie that was bananas that was just immediate. So I definitely get what you said about that.
Absolutely. And
not in a I want to rob you kind of way, in that you can experience in a lot of other places where people are immediately friendly to you. But it was I experienced that same thing in South Africa and Joburg in particular.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm leaning towards Joburg. I've been to Cape Town. Cape Town's dope. But to me, like Johannesburg is just like Black love. Like I feel Black love in Johannesburg. Cape Town, like it has, the wine, the vineyards, it has the beach. I mean, it has a lot of the great features that make it a really cool destination. But I just felt like the Blackness of like South Africa in Johannesburg.
I love it. 866-801-8255 is the number. You mentioned Costa Rica. It's on my places to go list, especially the spa there, the Pura Vida in San Jose. Thoughts on that? Why are you smiling?
Costa Rica, because that was really like my first like adult like international trip. So my family's from Barbados. So I've gone to Barbados a lot, like growing up.
All right, so pause there. Why does it cost so much to go there right now? What the hell? And where do I fly out of? Like, what is happening?
Hey, they know how to make their money. I tell you that much.
No, for real. Like, I want to plan like a retreat for all of us to go and hang out. I'm like, $12,000 is too rich for my blood. I don't want to afford that. Like, even if I can't afford it, I want, it's like, what happened to the $300 tickets?
Yeah. Well, I did find one for 500. I'm going back down there for Christmas this year. But Barbados, because like their dollar is pegged to be like always $2, 2 to 1 to the US dollar. And so it's one of the more expensive Caribbean islands, but it is one of the most beautiful. And I might be biased, but I love me some Barbados. But yeah,
why is it taking
expensive.
so long to get there though? I'm like, you're right here. It's not like you're on the other side of the world. It shouldn't take longer to go to Barbados than to go to California. I don't understand it. What are they doing?
I don't know. See, I got a just JetBlue flight though. I don't know. What airlines you trying to book through?
I was trying to do Virgin. I'm bougie.
Okay. See, there you go. Now that you come out, there we go.
Yeah, it's got to be Virgin, or if it's international, or Delta. Like I JetBlue. The pandemic. I just
Now I feel you. Now I get you a little bit. Why it might be a little more difficult to get that one.
Okay. All right. So JetBlue is where we should go to Barbados. Is that? All right. They got the lock on
America. Like honestly, like I'm a Delta guy because I lived in Atlanta for a long time too. So I've flown a lot of Delta. But to get to Barbados, Delta stopped their flights like a couple years back. So
yeah, that's what I noticed. I went to their website. I got points and stuff. But okay, the worst place you ever went that you were like, no Black person should ever step foot in this place. This is not good for us. It's toxic.
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer that one. I'm gonna tell you about Costa Rica real quick too, because you did mention that you wanted to go, because I love me some Costa Rica. Pura Vida, yeah. So again, that was one of my first like adult trips, but international adult trips. So it's just there's so much adventure, there's so much culture there that you're gonna have an amazing time. Like I went there multiple times because there's literally so much to do. We have a lot of reviews on the website as well, as far as like things to do. The Black, like this Afro like Costa Rican like culture there. So it's just like it literally has everything. So you will have a wonderful and amazing time in Costa Rica. So I cannot wait to hear about it because it's amazing. So I had to say that because it's one of my favorite like countries like on the Western Hemisphere.
And it's not super expensive. Costa Rica is definitely one of my faves. Enjoy Costa Rica.
I remember I heard the volcano erupt like one night when I was out there too. And I was with my buddies like, yo, wake up. I think the volcano's erupting. I'm like, bro, like, yo, leave me alone, bro. It's like 3:00 in the morning. Shut up. I'm going back to sleep. And then in the morning, like everyone was like, yo, did you hear the volcano? We're all outside watching it. And I was like, damn, you told me to wake up.
I'm mad I ain't get no volcano eruption when I was there.
I don't know. I think it might still be active, but yeah.
And Lawrence is right. JetBlue, the flights are $260 something and direct. Okay, thank you. All right, to Barbados, that is. Costa Rica, something else. All right, this is all right, because I was like, is something special going on in Barbados? I know it ain't like on the other side of the world. Why is this flight taking so long? Yeah. Damn it. Okay. Worst place.
Yeah. Yes. The reason when Drew said he was in mainland China, I was like, oh, mainland China is not my spot. Not my spot. China in general is just the way they view Black people and the way they look at you like you're like in a circus, like you're on presentation for them. So I went to Beijing. I did Hong Kong's a bit better because it's not quite mainland, right? But Beijing, like I'd be in, the train station and I'd see in the corner of my eye people pointing at me, trying to snap photos of me. Things got a little real when I went to the wall with one person. I'm not going to dive into that, but I've had some, not so good experiences in China. So that is definitely one of the worst places, I would say. And on the website, it kind of shows that too. So it has a very low travel while Black score.
Now, from a racial standpoint, there's one thing, but I think the China government doesn't like anybody. Like, I mean, I think, Black is because there's pretty much homogenous there. And if you're not like down with them, you're going to be in a camp. Like if you're Muslim or if you're Christian or if you, like, oh, if you had too many girls, like there's all like, they're like, I think they're scared. The government is a scary government. I'm going to say it out loud, my full chest. And I don't think we're ready. Those of us who are in America and you're like, oh, lynchings and all of this is bad. Yes, being Black in America is bad. We're not prepared for the level of inhumanity that I think we don't know China's doing right now to its own people. I don't think we're prepared for that. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, I would say like, yeah, I echo your thoughts. Like Trump was bad, and he's definitely one of the worst presidents in my lifetime. But when you compare him to other countries and their dictators or prime ministers or their leaders, like it's on a whole nother level. So China is a very it can be a very scary place because you can disappear and that's it. It's a wrap. Like and so I'm not gonna say it can happen easily, but I'm definitely with you that you got to really be careful in China. So I got into some stuff in China. I had to be. I'm glad I had some whips about me because it could have went real south real fast.
What happened? Tell us.
All right, okay. I'm gonna give you the cliff notes of it. So long story short, like I'm very cheap when I travel, so I found a pretty inexpensive way to see the Great Wall. And
Frugal. Say frugal.
Frugal. I'm frugal. And so you got to take this like normal bus, like this normal like domestic bus for like an hour, and then go from a gas station using this like shuttle, and then you get to like this really like secluded part of the Great Wall. Great Wall was great, but the shuttle bus driver, me and him got into it a little bit. So I knew I was building a platform, gonna have this blog, as well as like just kind of the reviews. And so I was like, oh, let me take a picture of the van so I can be like, all right, this is how you get to this part of the Great Wall, because that van looks like just like a normal van. There's no like labeling, no sign, no nothing. I was like, all right, that should work.
In New York, it's like a New York one of them vans you used to take to go, one of them dollar vans in New York.
Yeah. You don't know, like, oh, should I go in here? I don't know. And it's like, yeah, that's the van. So I was like, all right, no one's gonna know because I was nervous to hop in that van. But I took the picture of the van and the dude started going crazy. I was like well away. I was probably like 40 feet away from the van. And he's like in the driver's seat. So I'm like, you can't even see him. But as soon as I get into the van, he's like just going off on me. I'm like, yo, relax, buddy, relax. And he just keeps on going, like, just going nuts on me. I'm like, hey, I need you to calm down. So then he slapped my phone out my hand. And I was like, hey, bro, I'm gonna need you to calm down. I'm gonna need you to calm down. And because again, we're not able to communicate with each other. And then he swung at me. And then so I was like, all right. So then I end up, that's why I didn't want to say it on radio, but I ended up like punching him in the face. And then like we didn't really tussle, but then they kind of broke us up. And then that was that. But I still need to get back to my stop to take that bus back to the main, right? So I was like, hey, bro, I might have just hit you, but I still need you to take me to this destination, to the gas station to get the other bus. So I did that. I mean, I was driving all extra crazy. And then luckily there was another person on the bus too, on the little shuttle van. And so when he got out the van, I got out the van at the same time. Otherwise, like that dude would have tried to run over me. But as soon as I got out the van, he tried to run over me. And so like I literally was going in and out of cars. Yeah, like it could have been really bad. It could have been really bad. He called his homeboy on me too, so his homeboys came.
Oh my gosh.
He called them boys. He called them Chinese boys to come get you.
Right.
Did you speak any of the language?
No, I just spoke like, if you want to tussle, let's go. So I mean, I come from like the hood in Boston a little bit, so I had rocks in my pocket. So I was like, listen, if I'm going out with a bang. So,
in a foreign country that don't give a damn about rights.
Right. So I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm not going out.
You were trying it. Let me just tell you, you were trying it.
Yeah. So I mean, long story short, he tried to even block me from going on the bus back to the city. I had to like pick him up and throw him off the bus. And so yeah, I don't typically like sharing that story because it paints a bad light. But I will say, on the flip side, the day before, I met another guy that I think he was like a college student that was trying to practice his English. And so he took me around the town like the entire day, took me with his family, took me to all these restaurants and said, hey, you should try this, you should try that. So I do say it's like a tale of two cities.